Alright, so we are back with another mushroom farm update. So, I spent the last about 2 hours researching the farm again. Same designs. I've not changed my preferred design yet. Like this, I still say is the best farm design until what are you doing here? I'd zoom in, but I'm just in vanilla Minecraft. So, what? It's Jerry. So, um. I spent the last about 2 hours researching how fast the mushrooms grow, to see how to make an infinite farm using this style. Like how many layers would it take to make an infinite farm of this type? Now, here's the thing: mushrooms grow really slowly, and the more mushrooms grow, the less mushrooms can grow because there's less space for them. So ideally, you'd wait like I don't know 2 weeks straight, and then every single last mushroom that can grow will grow. But that isn't ideal, or that isn't doable, so I just went with how can you get the most mushrooms in the least amount of time. So I used this setup. So I had what I did was I pushed this button, and so it would run for 10 seconds straight. This is exactly 10 seconds in repeater time, and then it turns off, and then basically that runs it. Basically speeds up the growth. As you can see, now there's a bunch of mushrooms grown. Then I push this, and if you look on the right side of my screen, 128 mushrooms just grew. And then it's completely reset for the next test. So that did speed up my testing quite a bit. So I was able to do a lot of tests at different times. But it still took a while, hence the 2 hours. So ignore all of these. I did not forget that the math I did made it so 1 hour was actually 20 minutes. So yes, I did not get that wrong. I remembered. So in 20 minutes, 111 mushrooms grow. So I did about 6 tests for most time limits. So for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, up to 2 hours in 20-minute increments, I did 6 tests. And then after that, I did slightly less just because it would, like, at this point, I would be waiting, like, this one took, like, 2.5 minutes, I think, of waiting just for a single test. So if I were to do the same amount of testing for these ones, then it would just take, like, another half an hour. So I decided to just go with this. So yeah, things to note, first of all of the testing that I've done so far with this farm, like including when I made it, I did the math, and this is actually about 32 point something percent. Let me get the actual number. So this is exactly 32.34375% of the surface area that you have in a full layer farm. So this is about a third. So you'd have about 3 times this much space on a full layer farm in Hypixel skyblock. So that means that you'd get 3 times the mushrooms. So basically, all the values that you see here, if you're making a full layer farm, multiply it by 3, and that's how many you would actually get. I just realized that after I was already at about 9 hours into the test, like this point. Sorry, 3, because I remember. About this point, I realized, oh wait, this is for a third of a layer. So, yeah, just multiply all the numbers by 3. Shouldn't be too hard. I assume you know how to multiply by 3. So yeah, so I did 6 tests for each, and then I just took the average of all those numbers, the mean, and then the difference between this number and then this number. So in 20 minutes, it grows 120 mushrooms on average. 40 minutes, 265. In 1 hour, it grows 375 mushrooms. And then 2 hours, 723. So the more grow, the more I've seen it tends to slow down. So, like, here we're at a pretty consistent, every 20 minutes we get an extra 100 mushrooms. See, like 120, 145, 110, 125, 123. But over here, I've noticed that we started to slow down. So I started to jump ahead, see, like, what about in 5 hours and 4 hours? So, I tested 3 hours, and I realized that is 915 mushrooms and 931 mushrooms, which is about 920 average, in a full hour. That means that's about 100 mushrooms every 30 minutes. So, in actuality, you wouldn't need that many. So, like, once we get to this point, the mushroom growth starts to slow down. So, in an hour, it gets 100 mushrooms. In 2 hours, it gets 100 mushrooms. Sorry. In 1 hour, it gets 200 mushrooms. At the 9 hour, at the 3 hour mark, then in 1 hour, it gets 100 mushrooms. And then at 5 hour, I didn't even see a difference. Aside from, like, maybe 80 mushrooms or so, 50 mushrooms. So, yeah, I figure it's not worth making it so your farm goes past like 3 hours max. Honestly, personally, I'd stop at like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, underscore risk, the guy I mentioned in the last video, he's already started construction on this farm on his island, and unlike me, I've been mostly focused on testing it, not making it on skyblock. I'm in the process of doing that myself. He said that it takes about 20 minutes to harvest one layer. So one full layer of this farm takes 20 minutes. So it's really convenient that I went in 20-minute increments, which I'm saying is 100% on purpose and not a coincidence. So it would, so if you were to have an infinite farm, I'd say about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, if my math is correct. Personally, to be safe, I would go with maybe, I'm not sure. So I haven't farmed this myself, so I don't know how accurate the 20 minutes is. I'm going to trust him and say, so if it takes 20 minutes to farm a layer and it grows 100 mushrooms in 20 minutes, then just, if you want to get a good, decent bit of the mushrooms back, so a full harvest of this farm, or a full, like if this was all fully grown, it would have about 13 to 1400 mushrooms. And so this has about half that. So it would be half grown in 2 hours, whereas in 5 hours it would be barely more than that. About 400 more for an extra 3 hours of growing. So you'd get literally 400 more mushrooms in 3 hours instead of getting 700. So if you just if you just let it grow for 2 hours again, like you harvested it. So I recommend building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of this farm. By that time, when you get to the beginning, or when you get back to a place, it will have another 700 mushrooms or so on average, that you can harvest nightly. So yeah, really simple. That's all this video is about. I know I've been stumbling over my words a bit, but hopefully I get the point across. 6 layers should be infinite enough. If you want a full infinite, like fully grown by the time you get back, you're going to need a lot of layers. Even just to the 5-hour mark, you'd need 15 layers, and that's for 400 more mushrooms. That's just not even worth it at that point. So yeah, 6 layers is what I recommend. Alright, that's it. Happy farming.